lockdown actually, not of COVID itself, COVID-19 itself, but the lockdown on agriculture in India. This work is done jointly with all my colleagues at SSER, with Vikas, with Manish, Ankur, and many others. So it's not my work, it's just that I am presenting here on their behalf. So some background. Yeah, the background is known to all. I don't have to repeat. The lockdown was imposed when actually there weren't too many cases. And it was sudden and indiscriminate, meaning all over the country, whether large cities, small towns, villages, everywhere. So that's the point. And the strategy of containment was policing and coercion. So these are the things that I would like to highlight. And this kind of a terrible indiscriminate lockdown where almost no activity was permitted went on for about 10 weeks before things were loosened a little bit. It created a havoc in the lives and livelihoods of the poor. And it actually did not, as we have seen from discussions yesterday, it did not really change the direction in which the spread of infections happened. There was a suggestion that there was a small delay in the infection, but yeah, that's it. Now, and we know the stories of large number of migrant workers who were forced to leave towns and cities and return to their villages. A few dates here. March 22nd last year was the Janata curfew, and some towns and cities were more or less completely closed on March 22nd, and some continued to have a lockdown after March 22nd. The nationwide lockdown was March 25th. March 27th, government said that certain agricultural marketing activities are exempt from lockdown restrictions. And much later, about in April 20th, there was another clarification that NREGA should not be affected by the lockdown. So the unplanned kind of lockdown, the unplanned nature of lockdown is very clear from the kind of restrictions that were suddenly imposed and the delay in which delay in providing some clarifications on many of these. So in fact, a lot of the activities such as harvesting were obstructed by police, and I'll come to that in a minute. Before that, I would like to talk about the Okhla Mandi in Delhi. Okhla is run by the Agricultural Produce Marketing Committee. It's spread over about 10 acres. There are 300 odd shops. It's a wholesale market for fruits and vegetables, not really grain and pulses. In normal times, at night, maybe around 9 p.m., trucks start coming in with produce from all parts of North India into Okhla. The arrival goes on till about 4 a.m. And buyers, that is retailers who sell fruit and vegetable in Delhi and suburbs of Delhi, start arriving in the market around 3 a.m. The next morning. And then they continue to arrive till about 9 a.m. Small customers, that is people like you and me who would like to go to a big mandi and buy vegetables, owners of eateries who have to buy in certain large quantities, start arriving in the mandi at 6 a.m. So that's the normal activity, and by 1 p.m. or so, the mandi is kind of going to sleep, middle of the day. So that's the normal activity in Okhla. What happened during the lockdown? During the lockdown, the strategy was to curtail the hours of activity at Okhla Mandi. So instead of 16 hours, more than 50% of the time was curtailed. So activity was less than 7 hours or so. Trucks were not allowed to enter the Mandi before 11 p.m. and market was actually closed by 6 a.m. The market which stops activity at 1 p.m. or so was closed at 6 a.m. Entry and exit barricades were there, so the movement in and out was slow, both for trucks and for purchasers, buyers. There was crowding at the entrance and at the exit. Retailers who could come at 3, 4, 5 in the morning had to arrive earlier, which is 1:30 a.m. and had to leave earlier. And it's the same for other retailers, retail buyers who wanted small quantities. They had to arrive at 4 a.m. or so. Now, what is quite bad, or what is the worst part for me in all this, is at 5 a.m. the police would start a lathi charge, because technically the market should be closed at 6, and given their competence in dealing with this and their ability to shut the market, lathi charge would happen at 5 o'clock, hoping that the people will disperse. Sometimes the lathi charge was at 5:30 a.m. So in this, I want to end by saying the result of all this was overcrowding of the market, both inside and outside. Lower offtake, meaning I'm sure there was much less transaction that happened. There was much more damage and destruction of large quantities of fruit and vegetable. Police harassment, brutality, beating up, I have seen it myself. And finally, something which was quite striking is at the market, we have traders who are both Hindu and Muslim. And I heard this comment in the market repeatedly, and which was quite striking, where the Hindu buyers or let's say non-Muslim buyers and others kept pointing to the Muslim sellers saying, oh, you know, this is the Tablighi effect. You fellows brought the virus. So it was almost as if the Muslim traders were spreading the disease and everybody else was not doing it. Now, I was fortunate to go to have the chance to go to Okhla Mandi 3-4 times. I went around 1 a.m. and returned around 6 a.m. So the last point about Okhla Mandi is, during that time, which is something like April and May, the coronavirus, according to the administration, spread only during the day. Night, you were allowed to go, and night movement was much less restricted. Police were much better on you when you were moving at night, and migrant workers were walking at night towards Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, but daytime was much more restricted. And paradoxically, later, we had instances of night curfew. So then the virus was more active at night. This is something very interesting and funny. Now, so continuing, I would like to talk about the disruption in the supply chains and how the supply of various agricultural commodities were disrupted across the country. So these data are from AgMarkNet, the government website, which tracks about 3,000, they claim to track about 3,200 markets, and there's data on 350 commodities, 2,000 varieties, and so on. So I'll show you a few graphs to show what happened with the arrivals. So this, I'm sorry for the small size of the graphs, but I'll be able to show you some bigger graphs in a minute. So we have a few cereals, paddy, wheat, maize. We have a couple of pulses, Bengal gram and arhar dal. Then we have oil seeds, mustard and soybean. We have some vegetables, onion, potato, tomato, green chili, brinjal, lady's finger, and so on. Now, if you see the graphs, the red line is the arrivals, weekly arrivals in 2018. The green line is the weekly arrivals in 2019. And the blue line is the arrivals in 2020. Now, there is almost very clearly, the blue line is lower than the other two lines, most cases, and very sharply in the months of April and May. So that's what is coming out from this. These are weekly arrivals of select commodities in mandis across India. This is, again, sorry for the small size, I'll show you some bigger graphs in a minute. So these are the prices realized in these agricultural markets for the same products, that commodities that I showed you a slide before. Now, some of these like paddy, wheat, maize, Bengal gram, mustard have a minimum support price, an effective minimum support price. So the minimum support price here is marked in black. So you can see, let's see the first one, paddy. There is a black line and the activity is all below the black line. Again here, the 2018 is red, 2019 is green, and 2020 is blue. These are prices of various commodities. Now I'll go one by one to few of these, not all of these. This is for wheat. This is the weekly arrivals of wheat in India, all markets put together for which we have data. Now, if we see the blue line has clearly shifted to the right, there was a delay. It shows that there was a delay in arrivals of wheat to the market. Now, what happened? Punjab, Haryana, Western UP are the major producers of wheat. Also, wheat is produced in many other North Indian states. There was a delay in harvesting of wheat everywhere. Now, some of this delay was directly because of lockdown. In the sense, the markets were closed, markets were not open, and farmers, even if they harvested, they couldn't sell the produce in the market. So they had to harvest, they have to store, and then they had to go to the mandi to sell it. So one part of the delay is because the mandis were less active, not active, or had restrictions on how many people could come in. The second delay is because a lot of wheat harvest happens mechanically. It's done by combine harvesters, these large machines which do the harvesting, and combine harvesters are generally custom hired. You don't own, everybody doesn't own a combine harvester. And hiring means these combine harvesters move from place to place, providing their services, harvesting wheat. And when there was this lockdown, there was grave restriction on movement, and combine harvesters were not allowed to move. And so there were harvesters which were stuck in some villages and couldn't move to the next village and on to the next state and so on. So the lack of combine harvesters was another source of delay in this. A third source of delay was that we have examples from Bihar and Odisha and so on, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, I think, where there are combined harvesters, but the mechanics and the drivers went there from Punjab every year. So you had technicians who had to travel to a place for harvesting, and that was the cause of delay. So now we don't have time, but yeah, this is the price of wheat. As we see, the price of wheat falls once the restrictions are removed. And when there were restrictions, the price of wheat is slightly above the minimum price, minimum support price. This is maize. We see a very sharp decline in the arrivals of maize in March, end of March, first week of April. And this picks up only towards the end of April and in May and June. Now, this meant also that there's another point about maize that we would like to make, that is the price of maize. Now, maize is something which is feed for animals, mainly for poultry. And since the poultry market collapsed during the lockdown, the price of maize completely collapsed. Even though maize was available, as we have seen in this graph, after a point, the price realization completely collapsed. This is mustard. Again, mustard is not perishable, can be stored. So there was a sudden fall, a crash in the arrivals of mustard in the market. People had to harvest and store. And then in a month or so, it recovered. The arrivals of mustard recovered. And because there was shortage of mustard, the price of mustard and other oil seeds have gone up during this period. This is dal, Bengal gram, chickpea. As you see, there is also a sudden fall in arrivals, and then slowly it picks up. Tomatoes, the last one. Tomatoes, vegetables are perishable. So in this graph, we see there is a sudden drop in the arrivals of tomatoes. and then it picks up after a month or so. But in this case, the tomatoes which did not arrive in the market, we can be sure, we can be certain, the milk that did not arrive, the tomatoes which did not arrive, the cauliflower that did not arrive, all these are perishable. They were lost, meaning they were destroyed. Either they were not harvested because farmers couldn't afford to harvest them, or they were harvested, brought to the markets, or on the way, destroyed on the way. And then the effect of all this is the price of the perishable tends to increase towards the end when the lockdown restrictions are removed. Okay, so increased loss of perishables. This also includes vegetables, fruit, and milk. There were 2-3 other factors which were important and unfortunately came at the same time. There was the cyclone, which affected West Bengal and Odisha, and there were unseasonal rains, in fact, quite heavy rains in April and March and April. And when you have a standing crop and you have excessive rain and you are not able to harvest, this causes huge loss to the farmers. The other related losses are storage, transport, and marketing. Normally, when a crop is harvested, like let's say wheat in Punjab, it is immediately transported to the mandi, and there is no double loading and unloading cost. For example, it's straight from the combined harvester into a tractor and into the market. And in this case, like this picture shows, first harvesting was done and the grain was stored in the fields for a few days, and then it was loaded onto tractors and then to the mandi. So there is storage cost, there is loading and unloading cost, there is additional transportation cost, there is loss due to keeping this kind of grain in the fields. About the migrant crisis, I'm not going to say anything. We have spoken enough, and I don't think this audience needs to know much more than this. Now, about the Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, the law provides that 100 days of employment will be provided to all registered rural families. Now, in practice, it's not really a demand-driven program, it's a supply-driven program. And on an average, 48 days of employment were provided to registered households in 2019-20. In March 2020, which is the beginning of the lockdown, there were about 144 million rural households that were registered. And we see a sharp increase in new households wanting to register under NREGA because of the given crisis of livelihoods and employment. This graph shows us the % days of employment provided under NREGA. So you see there is seasonality. April, May, June seem to be months where there is more demand for NREGA work. However, during the lockdown period, the demand or the provision of work under NREGA was more than double. So this clearly shows the crisis that of employment, of livelihoods that happened during this period. On food security, I have 2 more slides. I hope I'm not taking up others' time. Now, India is the country with the largest population of undernourished and food insecure people in the world. According to FAO data, 32% of India's population is either moderately or severely food insecure. And there is no doubt that food insecurity went up during the pandemic. But what is astonishing, and this has been said again and again, and also in the previous session where Deepa was speaking, at the same time as you had food shortages and starvation and lack of food, the stocks in the public distribution system, the public stocks kept increasing. Now, if you see this graph, the minimum requirement for government to be kept, the minimum buffer stock that government should keep is about 25 to 35 million tons, depending on the season. There are some seasons where the grain comes in, so you're supposed to keep a little more. And here what we have is more than double, 3 times, in fact, the minimum buffer stock required. What happened during the lockdown was government announced a new scheme, and we discussed this in the previous session as well, where additional food grain was promised to all households that had a ration card. So some kind of if you get 5 kilos under the National Food Security Act, you get an additional 5 kilos free of cost under the new scheme, the PMGKAY. Now, we put together data on how much grain was distributed under the old, the regular PDS, which is NFSA, and the new scheme, the PMGKAY. In March, you see there was hardly any distribution. That's all right, because that was the first month. Then April, May, June, there is the distribution under the new scheme is consistently lower. Slowly it increases, but it's consistently lower than what was promised. With this, I want to hand over the thing to Vikas. Vikas will continue talking about the other changes that have happened in agriculture, the farm laws, and so on. Thank you.